Hey everybody, Steve here with Printavo, and in this video I'd like to show you how you can use a couple of Printavo's features to streamline your workflow processes. Now that first one that I'm going to show you is going to be our status change notifications, and then we'll take a look at our automation suite. Now, for our status change notifications, what these are is kind of exactly what they say, right? They notify somebody when the status of a job has changed. And to access this page, you'll head to My Account, and then a couple of options down on the left here, you'll see your status change notifications. So I'll click that. And we're back on the page we were just on. Now you're going to see all of your statuses that you've set up, under My Account. You've already set these up. You can always add more, of course, if you need to. But underneath every status that you have in your system, you're going to see a pull-down menu. Now that pull-down menu is going to let you set up what you'd who you'd like to communicate to and what method you'd like to use to communicate, right? So you can send an email, and if you're on a premium tier of Printavo, if you're a subscriber to that premium tier, you can send out a text message. Right now, just to be clear, customers can always view emails on their phone. If you're not on the premium tier, this is just if you want to send them an actual text message directly to their phone that pings them to maybe take action. Now, if I select an email option, right, you'll see I can send an email to the invoice creator, so that dynamically goes to the invoice creator, the job owner. I can send an email to the customer, that goes dynamically to the customer, so you don't have to fill out their email address every time. Or if there's somebody specific who's perhaps not one of these individuals that needs an email, you can always select the fill in the blank option and then just fill in the blank, and that communication will go to the customer every single time, or that will go to the recipient that you filled in that blank every single time. Right? And it's the same options except down here, except you'll be sending text messages instead of emails. Right? So in this case, this is just a kind of a throwaway example here, but let's say that every time I go into a quote status, I want to send my invoice creator an email. And I already have some content in here from a previous example of showing these off. But what you'll see is when I selected the email option, we brought up a subject line and a message. Right? So the subject line, we do put some default text in here if you don't necessarily want to fill this out. But the subject line, we're just telling the invoice creator, hey, review the invoice and send it out for approval. Now, what you see here, and you see it here, we have these bracketed phrases, and those bracketed phrases are what we call short codes. And short codes are it's just dynamic replaceable content, right? So perfect example up here, if I said, hi, customer first name, using those brackets, please approve invoice ID, using those brackets, what we're actually saying is, hi, John, please approve quote number 142. In this example, this short code was sent out on quote number 142 to a fellow named John, right? So the point is you don't have to say John, Sarah, Sally, Sue, etc. Right? So that's a status change notification. Every time a job goes into a specific status, send a specific notification, a communication. Right? Next, let's take a look at our automation suite. And the automation suite is going to take non-communicative automated actions, right? So the notifications are about proactively communicating. The automations are about just applying actions within Printavo, right? And some of them are customer facing, some of them are internal, but we'll take a quick review here. Now, currently, as in the present iteration of automation, you have 7 different options. If you're on the premium tier of Printavo, if you're on the standard or starter, we're looking at these top 2. So you might see, you might hear the terms basic automation, advanced automation. The basic automation are these top 2. The advanced automation is the full suite here. But let's take a look at what we're doing here. Now, the first one here just says, when something is selected, apply tasks from something else, right? So really what we're saying is when we go into a status, right? So you'll see all of your statuses are here. use our task group called pre-production, right? So, and again, a lot of these are fairly self-explanatory, but you'll see, okay, when I do this, tell Printavo to do that. Right? And then you just turn them on or off with your toggle switches over here. Now, the second and third one here, now this first one, just to recap quickly, this first one says apply a task group when I go into a specific status. Right? These next two say, when I go into a specific status, turn on those approval buttons. Now, we covered approvals in a previous video, but what we're saying here is when I go into the status called quote approval out for email, turn on that quote approval button, right? And actually, if I go back to my status change notifications, you'll see in the email that we have built up here, right? If I scroll down a little bit, we're telling our invoice owner, hey, review the information, and if it looks good, change the status to quote out for approval email and quote out for approval text. So by changing the status to quote out for approval email, right, well, A, we're emailing the customer using our status change notification, and B, we're turning on that quote approval button automatically. Right? So just to show you how this works in practice, if I go to my calendar, and I'm just going to grab a quote here. This looks like a good one. And if I say, and I'll pull up the public invoice too, so we can see what's going on. So here's the public invoice view. If I say, put this job in quote out for approval email, because of the status change notification, I've sent an email to my customer, right, which you can always review in the messages, and I've turned on the quote approval button. So you'll see I didn't have to go to the messages, turn on the approval manually. We used our notification to communicate and our automation to activate the button. Right? So automations 2 and 3 turn on approval buttons. Automations 4 and 5 say, hey, when the customer makes an approval, let's change the status. Right? And this first one here, we're saying use the quote approval, and the second one, we're saying use the artwork approval. So of course, it makes sense if the customer approves the quote, change the status to quote approved. So if I approve this quote, Steve from Printavo, here's my approval. Now I approve that. If I go back to my job here, watch the status, I'm going to refresh, and now it's in quote approved because of this automation. Right? Now, the next one is saying, just the next one down says, hey, if the customer pays in full with no payment terms, so if they're a non-payment terms customer and they pay you up front, change the job status, right? And the last one we can look at here is when the customer makes an approval, request a specific percentage of payment. So if I go back to my public invoice view, you'll see because of this automation, right? The customer approved the quote, so the status on the job changed to quote approved. But because of this automation, the customer changed, because the customer made the approval, we're now automatically requesting that 100% payment, right? And then the customer can click on this, make the payment, right? They pay you 100%, and then that 100% payment, because of the automation, will change this to pre-production status. And then now that pre-production status that says use our pre-production task list has applied your task list. Now, there's a lot you can do with this notifications and automations. And we do have really, really exciting things coming with our automations in late 2020, early 2021. So if you have any questions on best practices using automations or status change notifications, please definitely ask your dedicated success manager. Or you can always reach out to us at success, SUCCESS at printavo.com, and we'd be happy to help. All right. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful day.